packing a punch, whether it is from gusty winds or it is indeed for a tornado. So let's go. There is the latest warning here, and it does include Fayette and points just to the east, Barry as well, Pea Ridge, and all of these locations be on guard. I'm going to highlight some highways here, and then we'll take a big picture to give you an idea. This is Highway 13. Of course, 43 is one of the bigger thoroughfares here. This runs back towards Fayette, and then off to the north towards Marion County. And if you live anywhere along here, 43 South, all the way down to about the Gorgas area, we've got to be paying attention here as this system continues to push off towards the east. So I think I'm going to step on over to the wall here and get a little bit better coverage here. So there's a look at the line stretching down from Haleyville. And again, what we have to look for within this. You see how these segments bow out like this, coming towards Brilliant? You're probably dealing with some gusty winds there. They may not necessarily be all the way up to 60 miles an hour, but there are certainly some gusty winds. I-22, Carbon Hill, heads up. That is likely where we're going to see this lead edge. And then, of course, we've got this little notch right in here. So we'll zoom on into this one, see the latest velocity data, and see if anything has changed over the more recent scans. Something else to note, too, whether there's a severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning or not on these, there's a tremendous amount of lightning, and that causes its own problems. You can have power outages and all sorts of things. So we're going to watch that very carefully. So here's Fayette. I mean, this circulation is just to the south and west of Fayette. So if you're in Fayette, downtown, really anywhere within this polygon, Stowe, Bankston, Barry, Pea Ridge, along US 43, got to get to your safe place. Again, this is moving pretty quickly, and eventually this will be moving past us here within the next half hour or so. We're going to have to be very weather aware. Get to your safe place here. I know it's early. Some folks just waking up. Maybe you're hearing your weather radio go off. That's all right. We're here. We're going to walk you through it. Let's switch over to our velocity product if we can, see if there's any circulation. So there's the area in question. So we are looking at where those reds and greens come in contact. And this particular sweep of the radar does not look as concrete, but that's the thing about these, call it a linear system, a squall line, if you will, is every now and then you'll get this bowing out segment of wind, right? And that'll cause some rotation either just to the north or south of that. So there it is right there. Here's Ashcraft Corner. This is just to the north of that location here. So this is going probably just to the south, if not clipping Fayette. Fayette, folks, get your safe place, please, if you can. And this will be moving in within a matter of minutes and then eventually headed off towards Bankston. This is 43 right here. There's Barry. And this will be pushing towards the Walker County line, places like Cleveland, over the next about 10, 15, 20 minutes here. So we'll zoom on out, get a big picture. Want to not forget about any other folks that are out there at this moment. The feature of note, of course, is the tornado warning here for Fayette County. But we also have a strong bowing segment up to the north, Hamilton, all the way down to Ewan. This is coming up towards I-22 as you leave Walker County or enter Walker County. And this is going to be pushing towards Jasper. This will be pushing along 278 near Double Springs, near Lynn, near Addison. And eventually, a little ways down the line, this will get to I-65. So we're just at the beginning of this. I don't expect this to be a long track tornado day. However, these things, they can get a little bit tricky. And of course, as I mentioned, get to your safe place. When you're in the polygon, most people who do that get through it just fine. So we're going to do that together here as we move forward. Time is 6:47. We have a severe thunderstorm warning for Marion County, for Fayette County, north of the city of Fayette. Fayette is in the tornado warning polygon. I want to pan south just quickly to show folks who are in Tuscaloosa County, in Pickens County, what is coming out of Mississippi. So Aliceville right now, Tuscaloosa, Coker, Gordo, you are to the south of this tornado warned cell. We still have storms coming out of central Mississippi that are going to be a problem later on this morning. But this particular cell, the tornado warned cell, will pass to the north of Tuscaloosa. It may not even get into Tuscaloosa County. This is probably headed towards Walker County. So down the line, if you live in Parrish, if you live in Jasper, if you live in Dora, right along and south of I-22 in Walker County, that's probably next up for this. So we'll zoom back into this one here if you're just now joining us, coming up on 6:50 here this morning. This is a tornado warned storm for Fayette County. And this is right on top of Fayette here. This is coming across Highway 43 as we speak. We'll go back to the velocity here and see if we can't pinpoint something of note. And once again, most of these circulations are going to be relatively broad. They will tighten up, they will broaden, they will tighten up, they will broaden, but they happen quickly. So you've got to be prepared. You know, treat this as you would any other threat day. Just because it's a lower tornado setup doesn't mean these can't be impactful. If you are in Fayette County, if you are along Highway 13, 43, got to be in your safe place. This will continue to push east. Barry heads up there. And as I mentioned before, if you live along and south of I-22 in Walker County, from areas like Carbon Hill to Jasper, Bankhead to Parrish, point south, Oakman, if this holds together, this will be moving in your direction here over the next half hour or so. What we'll likely have in addition to this, could have some small hail. We've seen as big as quarter-sized hail back in Mississippi with this same cluster of storms. So there's multiple modes here. And just because it's not a tornado doesn't mean we can't have damage. If you've ever been part of a straight line wind event, that can be equally as impactful to some extent. And that, if we don't have a tornado here, we at least have some strong winds. So take this very seriously here. This is just to the south, it looks like a Fayette. I believe we're at the Columbus radar site here, which is good. Gumbud, you are right within the center of this. There's your circulation where that red and that green touch. And this is moving off to the east at about 40 miles an hour. And all of central southern Fayette County needs to heed this, be in your safe space. We will get through this here over the next about 15, 20 minutes. Then we'll be able to sound the all clear. So if you're here in Ashcraft Corner, give it a couple more minutes and you'll be in the clear. Belk, you appear to be behind that circulation. COVID, Bethlehem Church off to the north of Fayette. If you live north of Fayette, it looks like this circulation may pass just to the south. We're gonna hold off on the all clear for just a little while longer to make sure that an additional circulation does not form here. We've seen a couple kinks in this line, but for the time being, if you are to the north of Fayette, up towards central Fayette County, central and northern Fayette County, you are not in the polygon, though a severe thunderstorm warning does continue to be in place for the time being. So Fayette County, tornado warning. If we click inside this polygon, we'll get a time on that to see how much longer this is in place for. This goes all the way up until 7:30, and what we'll likely see is gradually letting people in the clear back to the west, and we always love to do that, but we also have to focus on where this is headed. So we'll zoom out just a little bit here and get kind of a reset. If you're just joining us or if you've been watching Good Morning Alabama for a good chunk of the night, these storms were very benign. Didn't look very impressive back to the west. They slowed down. Now they're speeding up. They're intensifying. And whether these end up being severe or not as they roll through the Birmingham metro, there's going to be a lot of rain. There's going to be lightning. There's going to be wind with this. So be prepared over the next couple of hours to deviate from what you would normally do on a Monday morning. A lot of folks just got back from spring break. And of course, first day back, we got schools delayed, and the whole day is probably thrown off to some extent. But that means you're in your place, you're with your family, and you can take these warnings seriously. It's not the middle of the night. So we hope you guys can get these warnings and get to your safe place. Looking down the road, I-22, Jasper, Parrish, this will be moving into Walker County here within the next 30 minutes. Eventually to I-65, if this holds together, which it may not. These things are cyclical. Fancy word for they cycle up, they form up, they go away very quickly. So take it a little bit wider here if we can, Chris. Meteorologist Chris Pitchford driving the radar for me here this morning. And if we look at the big picture, the other polygon of note warning includes Marion County, will likely be extended into Winston County, and perhaps northern Walker County here. You can see that polygon. Hamilton and points to the west are in the clear. The good thing about a setup like this versus multiple discrete supercells is once you get past this lead edge, it may be rainy, it may be stormy behind this, but the severe threat ends pretty quickly. Along this lead edge, though, it does appear that the severe threat is pretty substantial. So we'll zoom back on into this here in Fayette and get you an idea of where this is headed now. Again, this originated with a TDS back in Mississippi near US 12 and Steens, and has kind of kept a suspicious look to it since. So there's Fayette right on top of you, Fayette. It's probably very loud there. We got a lot of lightning. That circulation is displaced just to the south, maybe a mile or two south of Fayette. This is coming up on US 43 here. This is headed straight to Barry. Barry, if you folks are just now joining us, get to your safe space. Tornado or not, this has some good winds on it. and has had some suspicious history with it, to say the least. And this will continue to race off to the east at about 40-45 miles an hour. And looking ahead, Oakman, Parrish, Cordova. Wouldn't be a bad idea to at least know where you're going to go if they extend this warning. Like I said, this will be upon us quickly. It'll be past us quickly. You get to your safe space, and we will be just fine. So, again, we are watching this tornado-warned storm. This is for Fayette County. Belk, you're in the clear. If you are to the west of Fayette, right along the Fayette County, Lamar County line, you are behind the dangerous part of this circulation. Folks who live along US 43, it is coming in your direction right now. We've seen upticks in intensity with this. We've also seen it weaken. Right now, that is just looking like we've got strong winds with this at the moment. Not a very good circulation, but still something to take seriously and has been suspicious. So let's zoom on out just a little bit more. We may have James joining us here as well. If you guys could let me know if James wants to jump in here with any updates, that is great. Big picture, we've got a lot of rain, a lot of heavy rain, thunderstorms, gusty winds up here coming out of Marion and into Winston County. So let's zoom in on that one. I'm not sure if they're planning on extending this. This has been another area to watch, the northern edge of this line, as this has packed a little bit of punch coming out of Mississippi. So here's US 278 that runs essentially all through our northern counties to Double Springs to Addison. Here's Lynn. And whenever you see a Boeing segment like that, where it arcs out ahead, a lot of times that's indicative of at least some good winds. Doesn't necessarily mean they're severe, but you leave your trash bins out, you have loose articles on the porch, even those trampolines, as we know, they can go flying. So if you're out ahead of this, now's the time to prepare. If you bring your stuff inside and there's no impact, that's great, but do it and be safe. Let's go on over now and join Chief Meteorologist James Spann. James, what are you seeing with this?
Yeah, so Evan, I thought what we do is show some of the video that's coming out of southern Lamar. And the good news, I can tell you, we've not had any reports of damage. This is video coming from Kennedy, and that broad circulation passed right on top of Kennedy earlier this morning in the last 15 minutes or so. And again, we've had no reports of any damage there. This is video from Millport in Lamar County. Same thing. The storm came through. The circulation came on top of Millport. And you can see, yes, it's windy, and yes, it's pouring rain, but there's no damage there. So out of all of the reports that we have seen so far in southern Lamar, there's been no reports of any damage or tornado activity. And like you've talked about, Evan, the circulation is pretty broad. With this, there's a look at the radar. We're live at 6:56, and I don't expect Gerald and the folks down at the Weather Service to extend this warning into Walker. The main concern, it's going to be strong, damaging straight-line winds. And understand we've got severe thunderstorm warnings in effect for eastern Marion, all of Fayette counties for strong straight-line winds. And I say this all the time. It really doesn't matter if it's a tornado or straight-line winds. If a tree blows under your house, you need to know about it. So we're just not that concerned about tornadoes with this activity. We are concerned about the possibility of straight-line wind damage, down trees and power lines. And obviously we're going to see increasing power outages with this. And that line should be sweeping on into Carbon Hill soon, Eldridge, Carbon Hill. It's coming into Haleyville now in Winston County. And again, at the moment, we don't have a warning for Winston. That might change here at any moment. But I would imagine at some point the Weather Service will issue severe thunderstorm warnings for Winston and Walker. And it looks like the higher wind velocities will be coming through Winston and Walker counties, ultimately I-65 north of Birmingham. Of course, the good news, many of the school systems are on a 2-hour delay this morning for this very reason. You don't want school buses out in weather like this, obviously, and that was a good call. So, again, Evan, really quickly before we go back over to you, just the good news I can tell you from southern Lamar, where this circulation came over, we've had no reports of any damage. And, again, this is downtown Millport, right along Alabama Highway 96 and Alabama Highway 17 there. And this is coming from Kennedy in Lamar County. And again, we're just not seeing any damage. There could be some tree damage. We just don't know about it right now. But again, so far the news is good. So the reason we're here It's a tornado warning that's in effect for southern Fayette County. And again, we've got the storms obviously coming through the city of Fayette now, but the circulation is so broad. It is just so broad. That broad circulation will be crossing US 43 coming out toward Barry. And again, it's there. There's no doubt the circulation is there. So again, if you're in that polygon, respect the polygon, stay sheltered. The southern half of Fayette County. And again, this will include these cities of Fayette, although the circulation is south of Fayette. The greater concern would be US 43 and Barry, and obviously no travel on US 43. And again, based on that circulation, I'm just not totally convinced the Weather Service will extend this. Gerald's about to talk with us on the Weather Service chat here. But just remember, we don't want to get too hung up in this broad circulation here. Understand within that entire line segment through eastern Marion and Fayette counties, we have potential for strong straight line thunderstorm winds. And that'll be sweeping on across Walker, Winston, reaching I-65. And again, thankfully, we don't have the school buses on the road early this morning. And the whole thing should be winding down by mid to late morning for this part of Alabama. So, Evan, before I pitch back over to you, is going to hold here for just a second and see Gerald's decision on maybe extending the tornado warning into Walker. And again, it's been coming and going. That same spot has been there for about the past 15 to 20 minutes. But again, the good news, we've heard of no damage reports from this over southern Lamar. And so far, no reports of damage out of southern Fayette as well. And again, Gerald is just telling us now, Evan, that at this time they are not leaning toward issuing tornado warning for northern Tuscaloosa or southern Walker based on radar trends. That's good news. Evan, back over to you.
All right, thank you, James, for that update here. Again, well said there with the taking this importantly or seriously. So, straight line wind events can be very impactful. It doesn't sound as scary as a tornado, but it can be just as damaging when you get a gust that's, upwards of 70 miles an hour. No indication that we're having that right here at this moment, but this was warned for a tornado. And even if there's not a tornado, you can still have some very strong winds. And you saw that video there that James just shared. And if nothing else, it's a very loud morning. Our lightning strikes, 449 of them in the last 10 minutes. I said this from the onset. If nothing else, tremendous amounts of lightning, and we have certainly seen that. So James just talked about this. Let's zoom out. Let's go off to the north where we have that additional severe thunderstorm warning in place. I think they're about to let this one likely expire here. Hamilton, you are in the clear. Yeah, this is always fun to do, to tell people who are behind this. Hackleburg, you're behind it. Ewan, Beaverton, Detroit, Hamilton, I-22 as you get closer to the Mississippi line. With this setup, it's the lead edge that we're concerned with. And this is coming into Double Springs and Addison. So right now they've not extended the severe thunderstorm warning. And honestly, this does not look as prominent, as sharp of a lead edge. Part of that has to do when you have rain, when you have storms form ahead of a line, that zaps the energy. It hurts the inflow. So we should see a general weakening trend from Lynn over to Carbon Hill, perhaps up to Haleyville. We'll have to watch this here. Let's switch over to velocity and see if there's anything of note there near Haleyville. Again, it looks like some strong winds perhaps with this. You see where there's a cluster of lightning there too? We very well could have some small hail within this. And just because it's smaller hail, if you've ever driven through hail or had things left outside, that could be an issue as well. So a very, very tight cluster of lightning strikes there. And it looks like a peaker wind gust there, those brighter reds indicating perhaps some stronger winds. So if nothing else, it's going to be a very windy morning. We're going to have lots of lightning and a very brief or occasional tornado. As we've seen here, nothing confirmed at this point. We'll switch on over to reflectivity. Again, this is headed towards Addison, Arley. Here's Smith Lake right here. Eventually, this will be approaching Cullman. Good hope. Probably within the next, hour plus. As I've mentioned before, this is accelerated. So Chris drawing a timing here about 8 o'clock. So there you go. The center of that line coming into places like Cullman. This will be northern Jefferson, southern Cullman County over the next hour or so. This is time to prepare. If this weakens and there's no warning with it, then you go about your day. If it stays on the stronger side and you need to go to your safe place for a little while, you're ready to do so. So that's all we ask. And a good thing that they push those schools back because nobody wants to be out in this, severe or otherwise. Torrential rain, potential for hail. Let's go back down to the tornado warned storm, which is why we were on here. And at least on reflectivity, this looks very, very convoluted at the moment. Nothing signature-wise that looks very threatening. Carbon Hill is just to the north of this polygon. In fact, Carbon Hill, Walker County under no warning at this moment. We will have to wait and see if they're going to issue anything. For Winston County, it looks like they're keeping an eye on a cell that's just below, it looks like, severe criteria right now. And of course, we're also watching this feature that we've been talking about here. Let's swap over to velocity, see if we have a new scan of that in here. And once again, still suspicious. You see these brighter reds though? That's strong winds, okay? This is at Columbus, so these are winds away from the radar. We're about to switch over to Birmingham here in just a little while, but where you see that circle that Chris drew, that's that broad, weak circulation, but these bright reds scattered in and about here, those are winds away from the Columbus radar, so coming in the direction of Walker, of Fayette, of Tuscaloosa County. So these winds, whether you get any sort of tornadic signature with this, looks like it carries a bit of a punch as far as those wind speeds. So as I mentioned before, if you're at Jasper, Cordova, West Jefferson, a little bit down the line, Oakman, more recent, or in the shorter term, I should say, this is Highway 5, this is I-22, point south, so heads up Walker County. This is northern Tuscaloosa County, very rural out there, but should this pass, it looks like it may clip extreme northern Tuscaloosa County here, and folks there could see some gusty winds for sure. And again, I got no reports of any hail just yet, but when I see clusters of lightning like that, and then this, see this return right here, that pink, that could be the radar hitting something that's a little bit more dense than rain. So perhaps some hail coming down with this, and almost every one of these severe thunderstorm warnings are going to carry with it some level of hail threat. We saw dime size back in Mississippi all the way up to quarter size, and that's certainly a possibility here with relatively unstable air in place. It was stabilized a little bit by the rain yesterday, but we still have some instability here in place. So again, no extension just yet on this particular tornado warning. If you are in Barry, stay in your safe place. US 43, stay in your safe place. If you're in Fayette, give it another minute or two. The worst part is past you, but we just want to make sure you're safe here. There's Fayette, Gumbud, Concord. You're just to the south of that weak circulation, and within the next couple of minutes, this will be past you here, and we'll have to start turning our attention downstream. Who is getting this next in Walker County, as we've talked about here. So zooming back out here, let's get a look at the big picture. For those of you just joining us, we have cut in for a tornado warning in Fayette County. We may have a few of these today. This is a big wind threat, though, and don't let that fool you. I was talking to a couple people overnight. They said, man, thank goodness it's a wind threat. I said, well, all right, tornadoes, they can be bad, but the straight line winds with a setup like this can also be impactful. So if we see a storm that looks like it's going to have some significant wind with it, you got to take it seriously. You don't want to be outside with a 50, 60, maybe all the way up to 70-mile-an-hour gusts. See no evidence of that to this point, but we're going to keep a close eye on it here. Chris, let's zoom in on this up here. It looks interesting up in Winston County. Maybe nothing, but starting to see the lead edge of this really push out, and then right over Haleyville here, could be a little hail core just to the south, and certainly some tremendously heavy downpours. I mean, this is going to absolutely clear out the atmosphere. So you want to talk about better air quality on the other side of this. If you want to look at a silver lining, this heavy rain is going to be very beneficial in that respect, though. If we continue with returns like this, could be some flood concerns. Let's switch on over to the velocity here and see if there's anything of note. Again, we're looking from Columbus, and no, there's not. A lot of lightning with this and perhaps some gusty winds. Again, this is the Columbus radar looking at winds blowing away. Does not mean it's not impactful. If you're up in Double Springs, if you're in Addison, if you're in Arley, if you're along Highway 278, it's loud. You've got storms coming through. There is not a severe thunderstorm warning. Remember, criteria for a severe thunderstorm: got to have 1-inch diameter hail, 58-mile-an-hour winds or greater, or a suspected tornado. None of that currently exists with this cell to the north, so yes, it may be loud. If you're not talked about while we're on the air, it's a good thing. It means that we're not in any imminent danger at the moment. So for those who are, zoom back out, go to the reflectivity here, and see kind of a reset. So this line, again, intensifying over the last couple of hours. Look back in Mississippi, several reports of hail, a few radar indicated gusts above the surface that were 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, and that showed an intensification with this line. If we can shift a little bit further to the south and look over Mississippi as well, Chris, because this isn't the only part of the line. You'll notice near Louisville, south towards Kemper County, this is all going to be moving into Pickens, into Sumter, into Greene and Hale, eventually southern Tuscaloosa County. So we're not out of the woods just yet. This is the initial surge of the line. This will impact areas really along and perhaps to the north of Birmingham. There's not a big southerly movement here. This is almost moving really west to east on a dime. So this part of this line, probably approaching Tuscaloosa, 8:30 thereabouts. Moundville would be included in that, northern Hale County. I-20, probably a little bit sooner than that, near the Utah area, Bolaji. And again, a lot of blanket warnings on this. Haven't really focused on these too much, but we will have to as these get closer. Once again, nothing really of note when I see these signatures. A tremendous lightning and heavy rain, but no suspicious signatures with this at this point. So let's see here, getting some pictures in. Let's see any updates here I'm missing you on. So Marion, we mentioned that. We canceled that tornado warning, so that's good. Folks, up in Marion County, you are now officially in the clear. So where Hamilton is, Hackleburg, Winfield, anywhere I-22, once you get past the Brilliant area, you're in the clear. It's still raining. It might still be loud. There's still lightning, but you're in the clear. If you're in Lamar County, we're clear. Good news. In Pickens County, we got this part of the line that's sub-severe here. Still could be loud. Could have some lightning strikes here. This is headed towards Reform, and then this is going to be moving into Tuscaloosa County, so towards Coker, Northport, and right now this part of the line looks to be just north of Tuscaloosa. What may come out of Mississippi and impact Tuscaloosa is this near Macon, Mississippi, so we'll watch that here as we move forward. So Chris, let's see what's happening with this cell. It looks like they have just canceled that tornado warning for Fayette. Good news, severe thunderstorm warning remains. But that circulation, you can even tell on the reflectivity, does not look near what it did. Again, still, if you can, just avoid going outside at this point. You got some very, very heavy rainfall. Tough to see. Some of the videos I've seen, just torrential downpours, and that's no fun to drive in. So with that being canceled, I want to see if we still have James kind of give us an overview of what we're seeing here, if there's been any reports, any videos of anything coming through here, gusty winds or otherwise. James, you seen anything? Looks like we may have just lost James there. But we'll get him back here in just a minute. But severe thunderstorm warning continues. Let's click inside that polygon, see what that goes, how long that goes for before they're going to let that expire. So until 7:30, it's 20 more minutes. But if you are in downtown Fayette, you're clear. Belk, you're clear. Kennedy, you're clear. And we'll continue to clear out much of Fayette County as we move forward. So again, we just urge you to just have it in the back of your mind. It's never fun to have, first of all, rain on a Monday. Add to it, it's the first day back from spring break for a lot of folks. I'm sure as parents, you did not want to come back to this where schools are pushed back, but it was the right thing to do. You don't want kids out at the bus stop with lightning, with heavy rain, with winds like this. And so very good to see that. Right over Barry here, another pink return. And again, that could be some hail that's lofted within there. All of these, when you see those lightning strikes concentrated, when you see those bright pinks, that's a good indicator that we could have some hail, at least small hail within there. Do not have any reports at the moment. And this is, I believe, the lone warning. So let's take this out. We'll give it a loop here, maybe over an hour, and see where all this is headed. If you're in Hoover, if you are in Gardendale, Fultondale, McCalla, Bessemer, Alabaster, Pelham, Calera, and you're wondering, okay, when is this going to impact me? This is headed in our direction, that I-65 corridor, that 459 I-20 split, within the next hour or so, depending on where we're at within the line. Much sooner for areas like Cullman, for areas like Hansville and Warrior. Eventually, the southern edge of this line is going to push through Tuscaloosa here over the next probably about 20-30 minutes. There is no warning on that at this time. And the lone warning continues to be that over in Fayette County. Seeing no chatter about extending this. So if they let this warning go here in Fayette, we'll probably step off. If we hear from James, we'll hop on over to him. Chris, if we can, just time out a couple parts of this line to maybe I-65, maybe some of the more populous areas near Birmingham, Hoover, Alabaster, Pelham. We'll do a time of arrival there to kind of get a rough idea of when this is coming. Again, everything's moving from basically west to east. So this coming up to I-22 here, this would be as you're headed towards Cordova, headed towards West Jefferson, Dora, and Jasper. Here, before we get to the 8 o'clock hour, that'll be in extreme West Jefferson County. This part near Aliceville, southern Pickens County, with no warning on it, will be in southern Tuscaloosa County, just to the south of Tuscaloosa, between there and Moundville. Eventually over to Brookwood and Vance, the Mercedes plant, by a little bit after 8 o'clock. If you got to go to the Mercedes plant, I know there's no rain out there right now, but you'll probably be driving into it here within the next hour or so. And eventually all of this will get to locations like Hoover, like Pelham, like Alabaster, Helena, the south side of Birmingham, very densely populated area here, probably sometime between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. So we're a good ways from being out of the woods with this one, and we'll have to watch it very closely. Again, this is the springtime. This is nothing completely unheard of. Doesn't make it any more pleasant or less irritating to start off the week, but hey, that's what we're here for, to keep you updated and tell you what's happening. So let's go again from top to bottom. We'll start up here in the Winston County area, and this is a part of the line that we've been watching closely. There's no severe thunderstorm warning here with this one. There's Smith Lake, very vast area of Smith Lake. This is hugging right along 278 Double Springs. If you're sitting there and you're wondering, man, what on earth is going on? We got some very heavy rain coming through, and 447 lightning strikes in the last 10 minutes in this small area. These are loud. They're going to come through. They're going to be scary. There's no severe thunderstorm warnings, though, issued for lightning strikes. I recall being absolutely terrified of lightning, and unfortunately, you can have one of these coming through, think the sky's falling, and it may not be a severe thunderstorm. So stay inside. Obviously, one of the big reasons schools were pushed back. That seems like it was a very, very smart call for a lot of those schools to do that. And I'm very thankful that we don't have kids out there at the bus stop or trying to get through the carpool line or walking into school while you've got 400 lightning strikes every 10 minutes. That's dangerous. And again, all of these are sub-severe at this time. Let's slide on down towards Carbon Hill in Walker County. And you can see the lead edge of this is just now pushed past Carbon Hill. So Carbon Hill, Lynn, Brilliant, you're all in the clear. Just like that, the lead edge pushes through and we're good to go. The next up is going to be Jasper. And at the moment, there is no severe thunderstorm warning extended into Walker County. I still think the most intense part of this line exists right about here. This is now pushing just east by a couple miles of Berry. But when you see that cluster of pink returns, that is certainly something of note. Chris, if we can, let's switch over to the Birmingham radar, see if that looks any different, because now we're moving towards the radar site down in Shelby County. So, about the same here. But nevertheless, this has been the one that was suspicious, had those weak notches, circulations. Let's see here. Any updates from the National Weather Service? Not right now, but it does look like the National Weather Service, they like to send up these weather balloons. Usually do 2 a day, but in days like this, they'll send up multiple to see what's happening in the atmosphere. And while these storms ramped up in Mississippi, here over Alabama, remember what happened yesterday? We had rain. We had thunderstorms. Well, you know what that does? That zaps the atmosphere of energy that these storms could have used to become a little bit stronger. So because of that, this is moving into a relatively more, I say relatively, still unstable. We've got what we call an inversion or some stability in the lowest levels of the atmosphere that could hinder these storms from intensifying, perhaps weakening. I would caution to stay prepared, and if you can, just put stuff off. I know we got doctor's appointments, dentists, maybe you got meetings at work, and again, that's a huge headache, and you're probably like, well, this guy, ruining my day. Well, I don't want this anymore either, so it's the cards were dealt here today, and this will be moving through very quickly. So as I mentioned, Carbon Hill's in the clear. Barry, you got a few more minutes. Here's Highway 43. If you're to the west of Highway 43 now, you are in the clear. We'll zoom back out for those asking questions about some other locations here. And again, I'm doing my best to get to everywhere that we've got because, parents in Hoover, you might want to know. Parents in Birmingham, in Fultondale, in Trussville, in Pell City, Aniana. We're still a good ways away from the rain being on the eastern side of I-65. Later this morning, I'm thinking closer to, say, 9, 10 o'clock, Pell City, Sylacauga, Talladega, Alex City, Lake Martin. Later in the afternoon, perhaps, for areas like Wedowee, Roanoke, south towards Auburn, if you have, kids that are at the university. A lot of students still there. It's not the end of the semester just yet. You're probably curious. We still have a good ways. In fact, down near Tuskegee, Auburn, I-85, that's probably a little bit closer to about 1 o'clock this afternoon, maybe 12 o'clock. So we've got a little ways before this is over with. Let's pan back, Chris, to this coming out of Mississippi. We'll switch over to the Columbus radar and then just check out velocity. This is in one of those weird areas that's a little bit too far away from the radar to get a really good picture within it. That's just kind of clutter. But we'll have to look for, you see these little brighter spots of green? Those are higher wind velocities. Now, being decently far away from the radar, this is several thousand feet up, so those winds that are occurring in those mid levels of the atmosphere, that's not translated to the surface. But where you see those faster winds aloft, that can oftentimes lead to at least gusty conditions at the surface. And that's the biggest threat with this. We've seen a tornado warning or two to this point, no confirmed tornadoes that I'm aware of just yet. Trying my best to keep up with everything here from the National Weather Service. But this is over in Macon, Mississippi, Philadelphia, Meridian. This will be coming into Sumter County. Utah, heads up. Let's draw a couple time of arrivals, Chris. We'll go up and down the line talking about where this line is headed and when. So from the Mississippi state line, essentially, over towards the Tuscaloosa County line, again, right at about 8 o'clock. And that means at about 8:10, 8:15, this will be in Tuscaloosa. Tuscaloosa, you might get some of this line. This may pass just to the north. This is almost due west to east motion with these storms, with this squall line. And we have noted a decent weakening right here. There's nothing severe about this between Aliceville and the Coker, Reform, Gordo area in western Tuscaloosa County. So that is good news. We still off to the north here. Let's pan this up and do some arrival time for, say, we'll go from extreme eastern Fayette. Let's take it right up to Birmingham here and see about how long this notch right here, this Boeing segment, gets to Birmingham, because that appears to be the section of this line, the segment, if you will, that'll be headed towards Birmingham. So this will be a little after 8 o'clock, less than an hour from now for the Birmingham Metro. Hueytown, you might be just to the south of this little segment here, Lake Tuscaloosa. Here within the next about 20 minutes or so, we could be looking at a good round of rain and storms coming through. So we've got this one final severe thunderstorm warning in place. I'm seeing no talks of any others being issued. We are likely to let this go back to Good Morning America here within just a couple of minutes. Chris, let's click on that polygon one more time and see when that warning is slated for. It looks like till 7:30. So we got about 10 minutes. We'll stay here for a couple more minutes if they extend anything down in Pickens County. But the narrative here this morning is just pay attention. Have ways to get alerts. We say it all the time. Look, I realize we're weather nerds and we look at this stuff all the time. Half my family doesn't even know, that it's going to rain or storm. I reach out to them. And that's how a lot of people are. You're going about your day. You got a lot of things happening. It's just one of those days. If you get your weather app, make sure your weather radio's on, get the alerts. It may include you, it may not, but at least you know. And knowing is much more than half the battle here. So I think I'm going to let this lapse one more time, and then we're going to throw it back to Good Morning America. We'll be watching this very closely here. We'll put a quick loop on this, Chris, and if we could switch over to the Birmingham radar and just show the general motion that this is going to have. So your checklist here of possible impacts: gusty winds, a lot of lightning, not a severe parameter, but impactful. Heavy rain, haven't seen any flooding to this point, no reports of that, but there's a tremendous amount of rain coming down with these. Some small hail is possible. Remember, for it to be severe, it has to be up in that 1-inch category or greater, and we'll watch for that here as we move forward. So for the time being, severe thunderstorm warning about to expire for Fayette County. It has not been extended into Walker County. If there looks like a storm of significance, we'll pop back on here and keep you up to date. Of course, ABC3340.com, our James's YouTube channel. We'll have as many updates as we can as we head through the morning. Hope you guys have a great Monday and stay safe. Drive radar for this cut in. Alrighty, well, we tossed back, but this is the time for the weather cut-in. So if you just now are joining us, missed our coverage, we had a tornado warning earlier in Fayette County. That has been allowed to expire. We have a lone severe thunderstorm warning also set to expire. Basically, you've got a line of intense thunderstorms that are moving across the state, most of which are below severe limits at this point. This will be headed towards that I-22 stretch between Jasper, Dora, Adamsville, Brookwood, eventually Birmingham, just to the north here over the next about 40 minutes or so. This will be approaching the Birmingham metro. So what can you expect? Some gusty winds, some heavy rain, even some small hail. We'll keep you posted. Another update in just 2 minutes. We'll be right back. All right, another update here on the radar. A lot of you may just be waking up, getting ready to head outside, as we've talked about at length here last night and this morning. Schools pushed back, canceled, delayed. We're looking at this line currently situated from near Double Springs, south to Jasper. This leads down towards Tuscaloosa, Highway 43 from Fayette down to Tuscaloosa. This extends over to southern Pickens County and then back into Mississippi. This line of storms, while at the moment is exhibiting no severe threat or nothing that I can identify right now on radar, has the capability of producing gusty winds. 40, 50, 60 miles an hour are certainly possible as we go through the day today. Saw a lot of hail reports back in Mississippi. Haven't seen much since. Doesn't mean it's not happening. A lot of folks are just now waking up. There was a tremendous amount of lightning. That's not a parameter for severe thunderstorms. However, that can be problematic in its own regard. So we'll be watching this line as it moves closer to the Birmingham metro. This will probably be to the Birmingham metro in the next half hour or so. Dora, Adamsville, we are looking at this approaching as well. So there you go. Line drawn about 8:10 thereabouts. I would say by 8 o'clock, be aware in the Birmingham area. This will come through. It's very tough to see when it rains this hard. So just be advised of that. Tuscaloosa, you're staying to the south. The way this is all moving is from west to east. Now, there's no severe thunderstorm warning on this or anything in Pickens County, but it's still heavy rain, and it looks like this initial batch. It's okay. I'm going to run to the bathroom.